Dr. Jason Fung. Your doctor is influenced by drug companies and by the food industry.
There's a ton of ways that doctors are influenced to prescribe more medications, even when it's marginally useful. And if you ever speak to a doctor, everything is very familiar. So, you see you have these drug reps which will come in and they'll take you to dinner, right? Fancy dinner, and they're not supposed to. There's actually guidelines on this, but they'll take you to the fanciest place ever. I could go to dinner at a fancy restaurant literally 5 times a week if I wanted to, all for free, like literally like $200 meals for the big pharma. These are not by accident. They know what gives them a return on their investments. And they know because they actually track every single prescription that I write. So I will write a prescription and I'll send it to the pharmacy, and they buy information from the pharmacy. If I went to some free drug dinner where I got some free thing and they were promoting some blood pressure pill, they could see that immediately my prescription rate of that blood pressure pill compared to another one, which was probably cheaper. The problem is that level of corruption moves all the way up. So then the next thing they do is you get offered a role as a paid speaker. So what they'll do is they'll give me a opportunity to give a talk for other doctors, and they'll pay me. And again, I don't do this, but I could do this if I wanted to. Pay me $1,500 for a couple of hours to enjoy a nice dinner and just talk to some other non-specialists about a drug. And it wasn't any random talk. They would give you the slide deck. So they're like, this is what you're going to say. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that. It's easy money. It's a free dinner, like $200. It's $1,500. And you get to feel like a big shot because you're talking to other doctors, teaching other doctors. Then you get up to the professors and the people in the university. They're not talking a few $100 here and there. They're raking it in from big pharma. So the big pharma companies are sponsoring them. They get these people to do studies where they get millions of dollars, and they get to do these things where they go to like conferences as part of the study. And it'll be like essentially a free trip to like Vienna. They're getting sponsorship for their studies, which is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And of course, they will advance because the pharma company knows that this doctor is very pliable to all this sort of bribery, which is really what it is. It's basically bribery. So a doctor who advances doesn't advance necessarily because he's very smart, but because he has a lot of people pushing him in the background with this money. Because if you're bringing in money to the university loves that, right? They're always cash strapped. So then all the people who are taking the most money from the pharma companies get pushed up to the top. And then you have things like these trials, the things that we depend on to make decisions, they're all run by the pharmaceutical companies, right? So it's like so let's take antidepressants as an example. So you know that antidepressants, you have to produce a study that show that it works in order for the FDA to approve the drug, which is fine. That's the way science is. But a drug company, they underwrite all the studies. So the thing is that they get to choose which studies they publish and which they don't. So their strategy is to do, say, 40 studies, and 20 of them they'll just throw in the trash. And then they'll publish the other 20. Well, which do you think those 20 are? The 20 that look the best. If you throw out all the trials that don't work and simply count the ones that do work, well, all of a sudden your drug looks great. And this is exactly the story with antidepressants. So the drug looks great, and now you can go spend money promoting it to doctors and say, look at the evidence. The evidence says that this drug is amazing. The journal articles that publish these studies, they get a lot of money from pharmaceuticals. If you ever read studies, there's a huge list of conflicts of interest. So for example, in the sugar industry, what they found, for example, is that, they took all the studies on sugar and they divided that into, the people that got money from the sugar industry And virtually every study that the people who didn't get any money from the sugar industry found that sugar is not good for you.
The top 5 drug revenue. Number 1, Humira, $19.9 billion. This is a drug for autoimmune, psoriasis, Crohn's disease. Number 2, Eliquis, $9.8 billion for stroke, embolism, atrial fibrillation. Number 3, Revlimid, $9.7 billion, myeloma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Number 4, Keytruda, $7.1 billion, various cancers and melanoma. 5, Enbrel, $7.1 billion, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis. There are tons of ways doctors are influenced to prescribe more medications, even when those medications are marginally useful. Drug reps will take the doctor to a fancy dinner. Dr. Fung says, I could go 5 nights a week, all for free, $200 meals. But he doesn't do it anymore. Big Pharma knows what will give a good return on their investment. It tracks every prescription that I write. It buys that information from the pharmacy. For example, if I went to a big dinner put on by the drug company promoting a new blood pressure pill, Big Pharma would see if my prescriptions for their drug had increased. Another example, a doctor is given an opportunity to give a talk to other non-specialist doctors. He would be paid $1,500, be given a nice dinner, and the doctor is even given the talk materials. Dr. Fung says, unfortunately, lots of doctors do this. $1,500, free nice dinner, feel like a big shot talking to other doctors. Very nice. Big Pharma influencing universities. They sponsor professors to do studies, get money for studies, attend conferences. Those professors who bring in money will advance in the university. Basically, it is bribery. Another example, antidepressants. A drug must pass trials for FDA approval. The drug companies choose which study to publish. They will do perhaps 40 studies. They will toss 20 of these into the trash and publish only the best results. Dr. Fung says, if you throw out all the studies that don't work and only publish those that do work, your drug looks great. Now they promote the drug. They tell doctors, evidence shows this drug is amazing, and they provide money to journals that will publish their studies. The food industry also sponsors drug trials. If you look at the studies, you can see there is a huge list of conflicts of interest. For example, sugar studies. The studies funded by the sugar industry, the results showed not harmful. Studies not funded by the sugar industry showed not good for you.